Has someone ever asked you about your pronouns and you weren't sure why?
Do you have a friend or coworker who uses they them pronouns and you're confused?
You wonder, what is this gender identity thing I keep hearing about?
Well, you're in the right place. My name's Moss and I use they them pronouns.
And I'm Luca. I use she, her pronouns.
Let's talk about it. So, what do we mean when we say gender identity?
Well, the simplest way we can think of gender identity is as someone's core sense of self and how they define it.
And for a lot of people, this matches up with the gender that they were assigned at birth.
Right. But then the people who don't identify with this assigned gender are what we consider transgender. And cisgender is the term for folks who identify with the gender they were assigned at birth.
And a lot of transgender folks opt to start using pronouns that better align with their gender identity.
Right. But you don't have to be trans to start using different pronouns. They, them pronouns in particular are becoming a lot more common among cisgender folks in professional settings.
Do you want to maybe take a minute to list some examples of different gender identities?
I thought you'd never ask. Cisgender man.
Transgender woman.
Non-binary person.
Gender fluid person.
Two-spirit person.
When we live in a world where gender has many manifestations beyond the binary of man and woman, it can start to feel complicated because in English, oftentimes the pronouns we use to refer to people are gendered.
In English?
Yeah, some languages like Mandarin don't have gendered pronouns for people like she or he. In English, we also have many non-gendered pronouns such as I, you, it, they, who, this, what.
It. So pronouns aren't just for people.
Exactly. That's why we say that people use pronouns instead of have pronouns. Oftentimes, how we choose to refer to something reflects more our interpretation of something, as opposed to the innate characteristics of the thing itself.
Okay. But what if I want someone to know that my personal interpretation of them aligns with their interpretation of themselves? We established that there's a lot of different gender identities out there, and that even when I know someone's gender identity, it doesn't necessarily line up with certain pronouns. How am I supposed to know how to refer to people?
Ask! Asking may feel scary at first, but it gets easier over time. Luca, what's your experience with asking people their pronouns?
Well, for me, it was always something that I felt uncomfortable with at first because you're not quite sure how to bring it up in conversation. But asking someone their pronouns is a very good first step in getting to know someone. It's as simple as asking how you're doing. What do you do for a living? What's your favorite pizza topping? And what's your favorite color? What about you?
So a lot of people will just tell me their pronouns and then use that as a prompt to ask me my pronouns, which is my favorite response. I've also found that a lot of cisgender people will get a little bit flustered just because no one's really ever asked them their pronouns before and they're used to people correctly assuming their gender.
Right. And I guess it's just a matter of shifting your mindset to be away from assuming gender and asking gender.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever gotten mad at you for asking about their pronouns?
No, I've never asked somebody who I thought would get mad at me. I think it's okay to do what feels safe for you, but I think especially if you're a cisgender person, it's likely a lot less scary and a lot less conflict-ridden than you've made it out to be in your head.
So, in what situation do you ask someone their pronouns?
Anytime that I am interested in continuing a relationship with someone, or if I think I'm going to see that person more than once. If I'm meeting somebody who I'm only going to see once, I'm not going to bring it up, just like I'm not going to ask everyone their name. But if I think that I'm going to see them again, if I want to be their friend, if they are a coworker, all of this stuff, then I make a point of asking people their pronouns.
Great. Now let's look at some ways to ask.
Let's say you're in a meeting and people are going around sharing their name and a fun fact. You can also share your pronouns in this space. So I would go, my name's Moss, I use they, them pronouns, and my fun fact is that I have a cat named Valentine.
You can also model this pronoun sharing virtually by including your pronouns at the end of your name in Zoom, WebEx, Google Hangouts, or whatever online service you use.
My pronouns are in my email signature.
You can wear a pronoun pin or include your pronouns on your name tag.
When you introduce yourself to someone, you can say your name and pronouns, and this indicates to them that you're a safe person to share pronouns with, even if you don't ask for their pronouns directly.
And if all else fails, Facebook and Instagram give you the option to add pronouns after your username.
Modeling pronouns leads us into our last way to properly refer to people.
Investigate.
With so many people making their pronouns more available, you can simply learn someone's pronouns just by looking into it a little bit.
You can also listen to see how someone refers to themselves.
But what's the best way?
Asking.
Just ask. They, them pronouns are likely the pronouns that you are least used to using, so let's talk about it briefly.
They is a singular pronoun, but you use it with plural verb forms.
Exactly. For example, you'd say they are going for a walk, they walk regularly.
Not they is going for a walk, they walks regularly. No.
It feels wrong in your mouth, and it is wrong.
But what do you say to people who are resistant to using they as a singular pronoun?
I'd say, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Not what is you talking about? We're actually quite used to using plural verb forms with the singular you with little fanfare.
Good point.
Even though we're used to using it with you, a lot of folks still have trouble with they, them pronouns. And any idea why that is?
They probably just haven't done it before.
Exactly. As with anything new, you have to practice. You have this new, exciting grammatical tool, and you just have to work with it a little bit.
Try grabbing a trusted friend, maybe someone who also needs some practice.
Or just practice in the mirror. So clearly I know a lot about pronouns, but what do you mean when you say gendered language?
Well, when we say gendered language, what we really mean is the ways that we indicate gender in our speech. Something as simple as a casual dude or the formal ladies and gentlemen can exclude someone.
Totally. I don't want to offend anyone.
Sure, but thinking of it in terms of not offending tends to breed this attitude of anxiety or even sometimes resentment. And I think it's helpful to think of it more in terms of how to include folks of diverse gender identities when you're talking to them. It's a more positive and encouraging way to look at it.
If you're unsure about how people in your life feel about certain words, just ask. They'll be glad you asked, and they can give you some tangible feedback. Okay, so I know my friend uses she, her pronouns. She feels neutral about the word guys, but doesn't like the word bro. What if I mess up?
Well, congratulations. You've reached the inevitable.
Every single person I know has misgendered someone at some point.
Everyone?
Everyone.
So do we just give up?
No. We're gonna lead with what you shouldn't do, and then we'll show you what you should. When we mess up, it's not an opportunity to soliloquize, victimize, apologize, or theorize.
When we say soliloquize, we mean that we don't need you to tell us about your journey with using pronouns. This puts a lot of pressure on the misgendered person to comfort you or validate your effort, and it derails the conversation.
And this leads into victimize. Sometimes people feel so overwhelmed by guilt when they mess up, they view their discomfort as something that makes them the victim of the situation.
And they might think that their friend isn't being understanding enough, or they're being impatient, or they always need them to be perfect.
And it reinforces the idea that having someone respect your pronouns is a burden you've placed on them, as opposed to an invitation to let them better get to know you.
Now, when we say apologize, do we mean you should just never apologize for messing up someone's pronouns?
Absolutely not. When we say apologize, we mean over-apologizing. It's similar to soliloquize, where it just places a weird pressure on someone to say, it's okay, it's all right, it's fine, let's just move on, even if it doesn't feel okay or all right. Don't put them in a position where they need to comfort you.
The best apology is getting it right the next time. And lastly, you shouldn't theorize about why you misgendered someone. Like you wouldn't tell a trans woman you misgendered her because she's just wearing pants.
And we're not going to tell a trans man we misgendered him because he has a feminine face.
Masculinity and femininity can look very different depending on who you are and where you're from.
And no one should have to look a certain way to be respected. So what should you do when you mess up?
You should just correct yourself and move on.
And if someone corrects you, thank them.
For example, I was talking to her the other day.
Him.
I was talking to him the other day.
Do correct yourself and do move on.
The truth is, 99% of the time, no one will correct you.
So if you want to get it right, you have to correct yourself.
And if someone does correct you, it means that they care about you and they want you to see them for who they really are.
When people I care about misgender me, it makes me doubt our relationship and doubt my value to them. But watching people put in the effort and improve over time really makes me feel seen and respected.
Exactly. And speaking of time, I think we need to start to wrap things up.
Thank you so much for watching.
And I hope that this was helpful.
Good night.